Welcome to another episode of Life Stories. Today's story is one of defiance, ambition, and the journey to self-discovery. It's about a woman who was overlooked, misunderstood, and written off by her family, only to rise up and prove that true success comes from believing in yourself, no matter the odds. This is a story of resilience, where a seemingly small venture turned into a revolutionary breakthrough that changed the world of finance. If you're ready to hear how one woman's quiet rebellion reshaped her future, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to begin today's story. The mahogany walls of my father's study closed in around me as I stood there, trying to hold on to my composure. The heavy air in the room felt suffocating, like it was pressing against my chest. My father, sitting at his massive desk, slid the final document toward me with a flourish. The scratching of his pen on the paper seemed to echo through the room. The sound sharp, jarring. It felt like nails on a chalkboard. "It's done," he said, the words heavy with finality. His voice was cold, indifferent. There was no warmth, no remorse. "All $2 million will go to Sophie. Not to you." I stared at the papers. They were the trust fund transfer papers. The ones that, for as long as I could remember, had loomed over my life like a sword hanging by a thread. The trust that was supposed to be split evenly between Sophie and me. Released when we turned 33. A fair inheritance. A fair share. That was the plan. But now, it wasn't. Sophie was getting it all. And I wasn't even part of the equation anymore. Not in my father's eyes. Not in my family's eyes. I could feel my heart sinking as my father's sharp gaze bored into me. He was angry, of course. Angry that I hadn't followed the path he had set for me. Angry that I hadn't become the lawyer he so desperately wanted me to be. Instead, I had followed my own path, one that he still couldn't understand. One that he wouldn't acknowledge. No matter how much I achieved, I could have told him then. In that moment, I could have explained the truth. Laid it all out on the table for him to see. I could have told him about Athena, the financial technology platform I had developed. I could have told him that I was meeting with venture capitalists the next week. That they had already valued my company at $300 million. I could have told him that I was on the verge of changing the way the global markets worked. That I was about to revolutionize an entire industry. But I didn't. I learned long ago that telling my father, or my mother for that matter, about my work was like speaking a foreign language. It was futile. They would never see it for what it truly was. They only saw what they wanted to see. A daughter who was wasting her potential by playing with computers in a tiny apartment. Not doing something important, like her sister, Sophie. I looked over at her standing by the window. Her back turned to me. Pretending not to gloat. She was trying to hide the triumphant smile that tugged at the corners of her lips. But I could see it, could feel it. I couldn't blame her. She had always been the golden child. The one who did everything right. The one who excelled in all the things that mattered to our parents. But even so, I couldn't shake the bitter feeling in my chest. The way her success seemed to come at the cost of my own. I forced a smile, even though it felt like it was made of glass. Fragile and thin. "You deserve it, Sophie," I said quietly. "You've worked for it. I'm happy for you." I could see Sophie shift uncomfortably by the window. For a brief moment, I saw the sister I once knew, the one who shared ice cream with me after long, hard days at school, the one who helped me with my math homework before our parents' expectations started to drive a wedge between us. "Rachel," she started, but I cut her off before she could finish. "It's fine," I said, holding up a hand. "Really, congratulations. You've earned it." I turned to leave, but just before I walked out the door, my mother's voice stopped me. "Will you at least join us for dinner? Your father reserved a table at Le Bernardin to celebrate Sophie's promotion." I paused, feeling the weight of their words sink into my bones. Sophie was getting everything, my inheritance, my parents' praise, their approval, and me? I was nothing more than a disappointment. I was the daughter who had chosen a different path. One they couldn't understand. "I have a meeting," I said, my voice cold, even though inside I was crumbling. But enjoy dinner. I didn't wait for a response. I just walked out of the study and into the hall, my footsteps echoing against the wooden floors. The drive back to the city was long, and I spent most of it thinking. The trust fund, it had never really been about the money. Not for me. I had more than enough of my own now. But it had always been about what it represented. It represented my father's approval, my mother's love, my family's acceptance. It was a symbol of who they wanted me to be, not who I was. I thought about Athena, about the technology I had spent years developing, the platform that predicted market movements with an accuracy that human traders couldn't match, the algorithms that could process millions of data points in seconds, detecting patterns that no one else could see. My father would never understand it. But he didn't have to. I had come to terms with the fact that they would never see my work as anything more than a distraction, a hobby. When I got back to my apartment, the tiny one my father had always sneered at, I kicked off my heels and walked straight to my office. The screens on the wall lit up as I powered up my system. The numbers scrolled across the screen in real time, each one a validation of what we were building, each one a small victory in my quiet rebellion against my family's expectations. I smiled to myself. They had no idea what was coming. The evening after that cold encounter in my father's study, I found myself in the one place where I felt truly at home, my apartment. It wasn't much, not compared to the sprawling estate my parents lived in, but it was mine. I had built it, piece by piece, from the ground up. Here, in this small, quiet space, I could hear my thoughts clearly, away from the judgment and expectations of everyone else. I leaned back in my office chair, the soft hum of my system filling the room. The screens blinked with data, showing the progress we had made. Athena, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride as I gazed at the numbers. This was what I had built. This was my contribution to the world, a technology that could change the way the financial markets operated. It wasn't just a hobby, as my father liked to call it. It was groundbreaking, but it was also far beyond the reach of my family's understanding. A text message broke my train of thought. It was from Maya, my CTO, the person who had believed in this vision from the very beginning. VCs moved the meeting up to tomorrow. Are you ready? I smiled. I was more than ready. This meeting was the culmination of years of hard work. And it was time for the world to see what we had created. Time for the world to realize that what they had dismissed as playing with computers was actually something much greater. As I prepared for the meeting, I found myself reflecting on what had led me here. When I was younger, I always thought I had to live up to my parents' expectations. I thought I had to follow the same path they had laid out for me. But as I grew older, I realized that the path they had chosen for me wasn't my own. I wasn't made to be a lawyer like Sophie. I wasn't made to fit into their mold. What they didn't see was the passion that drove me, the fire inside me that refused to be extinguished by their disapproval. What they didn't see was the way my heart raced when I coded. The way my mind worked in a way that could predict the future. Even if no one else believed it, I could feel the tension rising as the meeting with the VCs approached. The world didn't know it yet, but Athena was about to change everything. This wasn't just another algorithm. This was something that could alter the financial landscape forever. And yet, as I sat there, I couldn't shake the feeling that, no matter what happened, my family would still never see it. A phone call interrupted my thoughts. It was Jennifer, my sister. I didn't know how to feel about her anymore. She had always been the golden child, the one who had lived up to all the expectations, who had become a partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. I'm sorry about Dad, her text read. You know how he gets. The trust fund doesn't matter anyway, right? You're doing fine with your computer stuff. I stared at the message, feeling a mix of emotions. I didn't know whether to feel anger or pity for her. There was a part of me that wanted to scream at her, to make her understand that my work wasn't just computer stuff. But there was another part of me that couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. She didn't know. She couldn't possibly understand. I quickly typed back, "Thanks, Jen. Enjoy dinner." The text was impersonal, but I couldn't find it in me to be kind. The damage had been done. I had been written off. Discarded. And I knew that no amount of nice words could ever fix that. Still, as I looked at the numbers on my screen, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Athena was the future, and while my family couldn't see it, I was confident the rest of the world would. Tomorrow, the VCs would see the power of what we had built. And when they did, everything would change. It was time to show the world what I was capable of. The day of the venture capital meeting arrived faster than I expected. And yet, in some ways, it felt like I had been waiting for this moment for years. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my suit, a crisp, tailored piece that had cost more than I cared to admit. But the truth was, I felt more at ease in the skin I had built for myself than I ever did in the clothes my family had chosen for me. This was the real me. The version of myself I had fought so hard to become. I checked my phone before leaving. Another text from Jennifer. She was apologizing again, but this time, there was something different in her message. I'm really sorry about everything. Rachel, I should have understood more. Believed in you from the start. Maybe we can talk later? I almost didn't know how to respond. There was a part of me that felt touched by her words. After all, it was the first time she had shown any kind of understanding. But there was another part of me that couldn't shake the bitterness. The years of feeling overlooked, ignored, and unimportant to my own family. How could I possibly reconcile the person they wanted me to be with the one I had become? Instead of replying, I put my phone down and focused on the task ahead. This meeting wasn't about family, it was about the future. About Athena. About the future of financial technology. The world would see me for what I truly was. A force to be reckoned with. When I walked into the boardroom, the energy in the room shifted. The VCs were busy exchanging pleasantries. But the moment I started my presentation, the room went silent. I laid out the data, the projections, the way Athena could revolutionize how financial markets operated. I talked about the artificial intelligence behind it. How it could predict market movements with an accuracy never before seen. I spoke about its power to analyze millions of data points in seconds, creating insights that were far beyond the reach of human traders. The room was riveted. There was no doubt in my mind that they saw it now. They saw what I had built. They understood. Athena wasn't just another algorithm. It was the future of trading. The meeting went well, better than I expected. By the end of it, I had secured an offer for a partnership. Not funding. I didn't need their money. I had more than enough of my own now. What I needed was access to their networks, to their contacts in the financial world. I needed doors to open, and they were the key. As I left the meeting, I felt a rush of exhilaration. Athena was on the verge of changing everything, and I had just taken a giant step toward making that happen. The excitement was palpable. But there was also a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that I had done it on my own. No handouts, no family support, just me, my vision, and the people who believed in it. Later that evening, I sat at my desk, going through the numbers from the meeting and preparing for what came next. The IPO. It was all starting to take shape now. Athena was ready for the world. And so was I. I pulled up a message from Maya. She had texted just before the meeting. But I hadn't had the chance to reply. Remember, Rachel, this is just the beginning. Athena is going to change everything. But we need to stay focused. I smiled to myself. Maya always had a way of keeping me grounded. She had been there from the very beginning. From the late-night coding sessions to the long discussions about how to take our technology to the next level. She had always believed in me. In Athena. And now, I could finally see the results of all our hard work. Tomorrow, we would present to Goldman Sachs. But today, I let myself bask in the victory. This wasn't just a win for me, it was a win for everyone who had ever believed in me. But just as I was about to celebrate, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Jennifer. This time, there was a different tone to it. Rachel, we need to talk. I heard about the partnership. I've been doing some research. I want to understand what you're doing. I'm proud of you. I stared at the screen, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to hold on to the victory, to keep my family at arm's length. But another part of me wondered if this was the moment where everything could change. Could my family ever truly understand me? Could they ever see me for who I had become? Not who they wanted me to be. I didn't know, but one thing was certain. I had come this far on my own. And nothing would ever change that. Months passed, and Athena became a household name in the financial world. The IPO went off without a hitch, and the company's valuation skyrocketed beyond anyone's expectations. I had become a billionaire, a symbol of what it meant to defy the odds and follow one's own path, regardless of the obstacles or doubts placed in your way. Yet, even with all the success, my family's acknowledgement still felt distant. It wasn't about the money anymore, it was about recognition. When I looked at the messages from my parents, all those apologies that came too late, I felt no need to dwell on them. I had my own family now, the team that stood by me through the sleepless nights and the moments of doubt. Maya, who had always believed in me, was by my side, her unwavering support becoming my anchor. Sophie, ever the lawyer, started reaching out more, but there was still a gap between us. She asked questions, trying to understand, trying to connect. It was progress, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. In the end, the one thing I had learned from all this was the importance of self-reliance. Success, I had discovered, wasn't about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right. I had built my legacy, not the one my father tried to impose on me, but the one I created for myself, one line of code at a time. Athena wasn't just about financial markets, it was a symbol of the power of perseverance, vision, and the quiet rebellion against a world that told me I didn't belong. Sometimes, the greatest inheritance isn't the one you're given, it's the one you create for yourself. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more life stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated with new videos.